Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the jungle. We've got fun and games. We've got everything you want. Honey, we know the names. I really do love that song. Fond memories of my childhood. But we are not here to talk about Guns N' Roses. Instead, War Thunder Ground Forces in open beta. You can see that we are clearly on the jungle map. And I'm driving around in the Panzer IV F2. That's for you, Bismarck. I really do try. Anyways, as you can see there, taking out a T-34 at range with this lovely long barrel 75mm main gun, which is probably the first major sweet spot for the German army. Between this and the Stug, you shouldn't really have many problems taking out anything you can get in your crosshairs. However, at rank 1, it's a little bit different. The Germans are having some issues with firepower, especially when it comes to dealing with T-50s and T-34 prototypes. But I will tell you that those tanks are not invincible if you know the weak spots. It just seems that right now German tanks, ammunition types are in some cases broken. They're not as potent as they should be. But I will tell you that if you are playing rank 1 a lot and you want to be successful, then you're going to need to use the higher velocity APCR ammunition or HVAP ammo on the 20mm. But I would suggest that you get yourself into a Panzer III with 50mm and use APCR. I would avoid anything that has a short barrel 75, such as the first Panzer IV and the first Stug. Those guns have a really horrible bullet drop, and let's face it, they were designed as assault guns. They were designed for bunker busting, anti-infantry, anti-light vehicle emplacements, things like that. They're not really there to deal with tanks. And even with their best ammunition, if you do manage to come up across something, you're going to have to get really close to it to be successful. Here you can see we're dealing with a T-50, which is not really a match for this gun. That tank ceases to be a problem once you have this, but you can see that it is still alive after 2 shots. He's kind of at a strange angle on that hill, but we managed to get him on the 3rd. Now, was that a legitimate engagement? Should that tank have lasted as long as it did against this gun? Do we take the range into account? Do we take the loss of velocity going through the first plate, then maybe passing through a crew member, turret basket? There's all these variables there. I'm not going to pretend to understand all of them. I only have a basic knowledge of ballistics and physics, so really there's only so much that we can talk about. And we just have to learn to adapt and overcome when it comes to this title, especially. Now, of course, there are some ridiculous engagements in this game. There are times where you're dealing with a tank that is lightly armored, has no business being alive after putting 20 rounds into it, and that's just broken. And, of course, beta is beta, so we'll let them have that excuse for a little while, but, you know, how long before enough is enough? So here's hoping that the ballistics continue to be worked on, because I think right now it's the sore spot of this game. However, there are some cases of people just not being educated in the ways of warfare, not understanding weak spots, not knowing where ammunition racks are. And this happens a lot at rank 1. There's also a problem with people not understanding the battle rating system. And to be honest, I barely understand the battle rating system because it seems quite convoluted. And it seems to be the biggest issue that people have, even with War Thunder Air Forces. It's something that's been a problem for a very long time. The tiering in this game doesn't work like it does in World of Tanks. In World of Tanks, it's a lot more simplistic. You have tier 1 through 10, and for the most part, you don't see anything too far beyond 2 tiers ahead. So if you're tier 4, maybe you can see 5 and 6, but you'll never see 7 or above. Or maybe if you're tier 4, you'll see 2 below you. Unless you're a scout, of course, they can see higher tiers because, well, they're light scout tanks. They have a different job to do. But in this game, you have rank 1 through 5, and the ranks don't really mean all that much. That's mostly the era separation. But the issue is that you've got battle ratings per tank. For example, your reserve tank is usually 1.0 battle rating. Well, the T-34 prototype, which is also a rank 1 tank, is, I believe, a 2.3 battle rating. So many people are not looking at that number, and a lot of people are squatting up with friends, and maybe a friend has a T-34 prototype or a T-50, and that's going to put you into a game that allows for 2.3 or above, and maybe the other guy or you are in a reserve, and you're going in with somebody that's 2.3. So if you're in your 1.0 and you go in with a 2.3, that means there's a larger percentage chance that you're going to see a battle that you shouldn't be in. Now, is it impossible to enjoy a match with slightly higher battle rating tanks? No, but it is typically far more difficult. I will tell you that I had a match where I was in this very tank and I got one-shotted by a T-26 who somehow got into one of our matches, and he snuck up behind me in this same map, I believe, and found my ammo rack. That was it. One shot, one kill. Super frustrating. But he also didn't last very long after that, because my team was able to locate him, and he really didn't stand a chance, especially long range. However, ladies and gents, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know everything there is to know about the battle rating system. Again, I find it convoluted and confusing myself. I'm just giving you some tips in order to perhaps have a better gameplay experience. I think my biggest fear is that War Thunder Ground Forces ends up like Air Forces. You know, I see a lot of people being chased out of the sky just because they're tired of dealing with broken flight models and poor matchmaking. Anyways, back to the game at hand. You can see that we're trying to deal with this T-50 who's behind cover. It wasn't easy seeing what I was shooting at, so I couldn't necessarily go for the weak points, but we managed to take him out. And this Panzer IV in front of me, I believe, was immobilized. His engine was knocked out, so he was just a bunker. He couldn't really turn around and do anything for us, I think. I'm pretty sure he says something about it in the chat. And at this point in time, I'm actually a little worried about rear security. I am always thinking somebody's going to flank me, so I had started to turn around and look here. And I believe in a few seconds we'll see a little blip on the mini-map. And I'm trying to turn around. There's a T-34 behind us. I'm wanting to push forward to avoid the shot, but it's too late. Gets one right into the side or the back, perhaps just ammo racking me instantly there, unfortunately. But, oh wait, even though we're playing simulator battles, we have a respawn available. Now, as most of you know, I don't think respawning should exist in realistic or simulator battles. It should stay in arcade, and that's it. I believe it's not very realistic or much of a simulator if you can come back with knowledge that you shouldn't have. For example, they showed me a kill camera of the guy that killed me. I know what I'm dealing with. I know where he's at. I can go back and get him. And I would have, except that my team already took him out. But maybe he's going to respawn, and he's going to have that same knowledge. That's the problem. I've been able to come back in this game and get revenge on people because I know exactly where they are. It's information you shouldn't have. And I don't want to hear about that, oh, well, there was radio communication. You know how bad radio communication was in World War II? So don't even go there. It was terrible. You're lucky if you could communicate with the tank next to you, let alone across a battlefield. However, while we're on the topic of things that I think should be removed from realistic and simulator battles, I thought I'd bring up my list once again. I'm going to continue bringing up this list in hopes of driving the point across. Bots, or AI. I just don't think that they're necessary. I've only played one game that's made good use of AI in the multiplayer experience, and that's Titanfall. I don't see that War Thunder is the same type of game because it has larger player support. And with the amount of players we can have in this game, there's no need for bots. And some of you might be thinking, well, the bots are there for us to hit their extra targets, which means extra experience and credits. No, I disagree. I don't think we need that in a multiplayer game. I think that they're just a distraction. They're dumb AI. They drive around and all they do is shoot at the dirt and the mountains and the hillside, all the terrain. And they're just not necessary. They take up strategic locations. They give away your position if you're riding next to them. They're just a waste of space. And if anything, they're probably an extra server calculation, extra polygons, extra particle effects. That's a performance issue. If you were to get rid of them, I bet the frame rate for a lot of people would go up. My frame rate, it's not so bad, but I'm lucky I've got a lot of hardware pushing this game. But I think for some that are trying to run this or maybe having a hard time, how can the bots not be a performance issue? I find that hard to believe. So again, I've given multiple reasons for their removal. I just don't think that they're needed in this game. They're not adding to my experience. Okay? Artillery, which happens to be dropping behind us in the background. Get rid of it from realistic and simulator battles in its current form, or make it so that it is a map call-in by scout units only. For example, you bring up a map and you have to call in a grid reference, and then you get a random drop-in. And make it so that artillery can be destroyed. Perhaps there's an artillery location in the map somewhere at the back of a base. The enemy has to go there, find the artillery, and kill it. And once the artillery is dead, you can no longer use it. Those are ways that I think that artillery should be handled. Those suggestions were created by the community, not me. I saw a good post about that some time ago. I apologize. I don't have the name of the person that came up with those ideas. But I think they're great ideas and they should be implemented. Right now, people are using artillery like hand grenades. Oh, let me just use this UAV view, look over the mountain, and just toss this artillery at you. It's simply ridiculous, and it needs to go. It recharges way too fast, and it just doesn't make any sense, especially in a realistic or simulator battle setting. Fire extinguishers. They are way too effective, and in most cases should just probably be removed. In World War II, if your tank caught on fire, it was time to get out. That was the #1 reason for bailing out of a tank, because guess what? You're in a metal coffin. There's ammunition and fuel everywhere. You need to get out as soon as possible. You're not going to sit there with a rinky-dink fire extinguisher trying to put something out. On top of that, you probably didn't even have access to the engine compartment or the fuel to be able to put out the fire. So unless it's in the main crew compartment, you're not going to have much luck with that. Now, yes, some tanks did have the extinguishers, but they were probably there for minor flare-ups. I just never really heard much about a tank crew staying in there while the thing's on fire unless they're absolutely insane or somehow trapped, which is why they ended up putting a lot more hatches on the tops of the turret so other crew members could get out. For example, later models of the Sherman, they added another hatch for the loader to escape because the commander had his hatch and then the loader would have to follow him out. But by the time he got out, it would be too late. So fire extinguishers, they're just overly effective in this game. We're not talking about modern main battle tanks that have halon systems that can extinguish a fire in seconds. So I think that something needs to be done. But otherwise, I know it might not seem like it, but I am enjoying the game. It's just, I take my job seriously. It is my job to critique video games, to hopefully make them better, to present information to communities and developers alike so that it can be a better game. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I'll see you on the next one.